Hello, and welcome to another episode of Content Creators Unite, the show where we discuss all things content creation. So, if you want to learn how to grow your business using your blog, newsletters, ebooks, and more, you're in the right place. I'm your host, John Clements, and our guest for today is Dr. Julie Pham. So, Dr. Pham is the founder and CEO of Curiosity Based, an organizational development firm based in Seattle, Washington. She's the author of the Amazon bestseller, 7 Forms of Respect, a guide to transforming your communication and relationships at work. And she's even given a TEDx talk titled Curiosity as a Practice. Dr. Pham earned her PhD in history at Cambridge University as a Gates Cambridge Scholar, and she earned her real-life MBA by running her family's Vietnamese language newspaper during the Great Recession. Julie, welcome to the podcast.
John, thank you so much for inviting me.
You bet. And I must say, it's nice to have a fellow Seattleite on the program. So very glad you're here. So I gave the briefest of introductions about what it is that you do. And even that is like expansive, which is just pretty cool. So can you just give us a little more detail about your background and how you got it to do what it is that you do?
So yes, trained as a historian, then worked at my family's newspaper, getting that real life MBA. I spent 9 years in the tech industry then. And then in 2021, I decided to start my own company called Curiosity Based. I actually left the best job I ever had voluntarily because I really felt called to start Curiosity Based. And we help people practice curiosity in the world, starting in the workplace, because that's where we spend most of our waking hours.
I love that. So let's talk about that for just a second. So with Curiosity Based, you said I left a job that I loved to start this. So what is it that is the most exciting thing about that? Like, what do you wish everyone knew about Curiosity Based?
So just think about how polarized our world is right now. And to learn from one another, to take the time to learn about ourselves, to practice inward curiosity, and then to also practice outward curiosity, I think is actually the way that we heal, the way that we create bridges in our divided world. And also to not just give other people grace, but also to give ourselves grace too. And the other thing is, how do we create learning organizations? Because learning doesn't stop at school. And actually, how much more satisfying work would feel if I was going to a place where I felt, oh, my employer doesn't just want to extract labor from me. They're actually investing in me. And this is a place where I can learn and grow and evolve alongside other people and admit when I don't know things and then and make mistakes. And that's okay. So we also help organizations just become learning organizations.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, so you have a doctorate. I only have a master's, so I'm a little behind you. But I totally agree with you. Learning does not stop when you get that piece of paper to hang on your wall. And I know for me, like as a small business owner, like I'm learning every single day. And then I also appreciate your the importance you place on respect. Like I literally don't know a single person that doesn't want to be respected. And so the fact that you do that as part of Curiosity Based, I think is just wonderful.
Yeah, and the way we actually think about respect is, how do we get curious about respect? So when people hear the title 7 Forms of Respect, they often think it's going to be like 7 habits of highly effective people.
Mm-hmm.
These are the ways that you need to be respectful. And I tell people, no, it's more like 5 love languages. We can agree on how we want on how respect feels, to feel seen, heard, acknowledged. What we disagree about is, what does it look like? John, what does it look like to you versus what does it look like to me? And it's okay that it's different. And so actually at the heart of my work on respect, it's how do we practice curiosity around respect?
Yeah, I love that. I've been married almost 19 years, so I get practice every single day. How do I respect my wife? Because it's not always what I think it is.
Well, and the thing is, we have our days where it's just, I'm a little moody today, or I'm in a good mood, or I'm in a bad mood, and so maybe the way I want respect normally changes. Maybe I just need a little more. I need to be treated with a little more tenderness today, and normally I just, no, just ask me, just be blunt about it, and so it's also recognizing how respect can be dynamic, and that's because context changes.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So one thing you mentioned curiosity. One thing I'm curious about, since this is the name of the show, is your content.
Mhm.
So You are pretty prolific on LinkedIn. You've got a ton of blog posts on your website, which also link to videos you've done as in addition. So you've got all of this content out there. Can you just kind of walk me through, like, what does your content creation workflow look like?
Mhm. So, John, it took me the first 3 years of business to really figure this out. I'm ending year 4. So I think if there is the parent document, the source of all of the content. And so for us, that's actually the newsletter. So I am a writer at heart, so I write all of my own content. Um, and so now, and we have a weekly newsletter. And so now it's just a Google Doc. Actually, it's an
Mhm.
ongoing Google Doc, and I will write down all of my ideas that I want to write about in our newsletter. And all of these ideas, they have to be related to that practicing curiosity. Not always about respect, but at the core, it's just about how to be curious. And actually, not even just in the workplace, just how do we approach the world with and practice more curiosity. So I have this big mother document that is the newsletter. And from there, we take that and we multi-purpose it. We then, okay, now we are going to do that. We're going to put this into a LinkedIn newsletter. And we're also going to do a LinkedIn post about this. Um, and and so that's our the big source of content. I also have, and we're actually rethinking this right now, but for the past 2.5 years, I also have a really robust YouTube channel. And so that we actually produce a video every week. And in that I also batch. And so I'll do 8 to 9 videos at a time. And so there's brainstorming, hey, what are interesting, what are useful tips that we can do a video about. And then I also will then cross purpose or cross post the videos into the newsletter.
Nice. So you say we. Do you have a team who helps you with
Yes.
that, or do you do it all
Yeah.
yourself?
Yeah, so I actually have a small team. So I have a part-time marketing manager and also a full-time person who she's actually the Jill of all trades. So she
Mhm.
actually does the video editing. She taught herself how to do that. One of the things early on that I found really, because one of the hard things about being a business owner is promoting myself.
Yes.
It's really hard. It's really hard to say, "Look at me, look at my ideas." And so that first year of business, I was so stuck. I would write things, but I could not push post. It was really I would go into this kind of analysis paralysis. Is it perfect yet? And so what I actually found super helpful was actually I at the time I had a marketing a consultant who had fewer hours than what I have now. She would actually put it together and put posts, and that was totally worth the money because it reduced my anxiety. So that's
Mm.
actually something I'd recommend for small business owners who are doing it on their own is just if you find that anxiety, the actual setting it up and pushing send is actually what's getting in the way, then it's worth it to just pay someone to do that part.
Yeah, I love that. And as a writer and editor who does that kind of work, I'm going to say yes, exactly. but but also, like, that is, you're so right, because I had to learn that as well, because I had a mentor one time tell me that there are two kinds of people in this world. There's here I am people, and there's there you are people, right? Where do you
Mm,
want your focus to be? I want to be a person who's about the other. But
mhm.
you're exactly right. When I started my own business, I had to sit back and say, okay, this isn't about me being an egotistical jerk. This is about me promoting a business or a service that's going to help people. So that's how I look at it, to enable me to hit send. But you're totally right. Some people, it's hard for them to do that. And so, yeah, to outsource that, I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, and from the get-go, when I started my business, I decided that I was gonna take a huge pay cut and have people be basically have I was an employer from the get-go, a small employer, a very small employer, but and so I learned how to delegate from the get-go because I needed to justify why I was paying people to do that. And
Yeah.
also for me though, I much rather make way less money myself and not do the parts of the work that I don't want to do. Right. And so
Yeah, there
that's
is
something, I
that.
mean, that's something for, just something for small business owners to think about. Like, wait a minute. is it worth it for me? How much energy is going into a certain task? And maybe it's just worth it for me to pay for that. And I know that's a luxury. Not everyone can do that, but that is something to really think about. Because I mean, there are also um, sources where you don't have to pay people a lot, but it's just, can I get someone to take this stress off? Because it's actually taking so much more time than it's worth.
Yeah. Yeah. And I will add too, because this is another thing I've learned about delegating, is let's say you have a task you don't want to do, but you can't afford maybe to hire someone to do it. You can still take the time to document that and make a standard operating procedure, refine that. And then when you do have that budget, it's a very simple thing to move that off. So there's still things you can do to prepare yourself for that time.
Yes, and actually, we just learned standard SOPs this past summer. It just 4 years into business, and we actually spent the summer just, which is our low season, doing. We did 40 SOPs by the end of the summer.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
yeah. Mhm.
I used to work in quality at a local airplane company that I won't say the name of, but it's a
Mhm.
big one out here. So yeah, I'm very familiar with like these are important. They're not just like sitting on the desk collecting dust. Like we need to have these. So
Yeah.
even in my little one-person shop, I have them.
Yes. And so, John, just kind of going back to the mother document,
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
source, is something that I learned. I mean, when I first started, the first 2 years, every week felt super last minute anxious. I was trying to get at that newsletter. Literally, it'd be Monday night. It was just so bad.
yeah.
And slowly over time, I learned how to start planning ahead. And then even in that planning ahead, um, I could then see themes emerge. And so then it was just, wait a minute, maybe there are certain holidays I want to recognize. So here's National Respect Day. I always, as a Vietnamese American, I always like to have one on Lunar New Year. And
Hmm.
so there are certain holidays where it's just, okay, here, I'm filling this in. What are some other topics that I want to talk about? And also something that we do at Curiosity Based is um, we create these lists of leadership books written by different identities. So we have, for example, this is November. We have a book list of by Native American, Alaskan Native authors, and every year we just update that list. So we actually have 7 of these lists, and that always provides content for that for 1 week in that particular month.
Nice. So when you say you're planning this content out, is this more of like I'm scheduling the topic, or are you actually writing things in advance in preparation, or what is that like? What does that look like?
Mhm. So in the Google Doc, I will put here are the headlines for it. This is what I think the subject is going to be. And then now I actually will set aside a day, and I do it a month in advance. So I will batch, I'll just say, hey, I'm going to write all of December's emails. And I set aside a day to do that. And actually it usually takes me then another day to read through it and to think about it. And then
Mhm.
I'll share it with the marketing manager, and then she reads through it to make sure that because I always like to have another set of eyes on it.
Yeah.
And then we have a what we call a newsletter jam. And so then with the other person, we literally get together and on that Google Doc, I choose here are the pictures we're going to use, here are the captions, and then the marketing manager then will put in other elements like here's the YouTube video and things like that. And then our the person who's more technical, she then puts everything into Mailchimp, and then we just get together. Actually, we did it this morning. We did
Mhm.
five emails all of December in an hour and a half. And
Nice.
we find like if you kind of just do it together, it's way faster than trying to
Yeah.
just email each other.
And how did you come to the conclusion that batching was the right solution for you as opposed to, piecemealing or doing it one at a time?
It was so stressful to piecemeal one at a time. But part of it was because I knew for a while that I needed to do this. So the third year, I put it all ahead, but it was kind of more still idealistic. Like I would get maybe 2 or 3 emails ahead
Mhm.
of time. And then about 6 months ago, our marketing manager, who we had since the very beginning, she transitioned and she gave us 3 months. And so then it was just, okay, well, we're 3.5 years in. We need to get someone else to replace her. And what we need now is different from what we needed when we were in the very get-go. And also our original marketing manager, she was self-taught. And so what I decided to do was actually we hired someone at fewer hours who was more experienced. And that forced me, I have to be so much more efficient with my time. And yet I realized I was ready to do that. I just needed that forcing function. So batching, the reason why I decided to batch 4 or 5 weeks in advance is it saves so much time. And once I'm in that writing flow, then actually I can I can write so much more versus that stop, start, stop, start, stop, start.
Yeah, and that's what I've experienced as well. So I have a newsletter, and I tend to batch out the newsletters. I tried that with LinkedIn. For me personally, what I found was I would rather be in the moment for those, but that's a
Mhm,
choice I can make, right? That's not me just doing something because, like, I tried the batching, and I decided for this particular medium, I'm going to do the more organic route, and I'm okay with the trade-off. But you're right,
mhm,
it is less efficient. I end up doing fewer posts, but for the newsletter, definitely, I'm batching that out for sure.
mhm, mhm. Yeah, and I just started really batching with LinkedIn. For a long time, I was doing what you were doing as well.
Yeah. So that's a lot of content, and you've got a team involved, um, and there's just a lot. So there's a lot of content going out the door. How do you measure success? Like, what does success mean to you for when something goes out the door? What are you trying to make that achieve?
So, one of the things I learned early on was if success looks like sales, then I'm gonna be failing miserably. So I'll just say that right then and there, 'cause I think the worst performing emails were the ones where I tried to sell. So for me, success is actually, are people sharing? Are people opening? Are people responding? Are they engaging to it? Because what I've learned is it's the us constantly sending them messages every week of who we are. And then when they need something, that's when they refer us. And so success, I mean, we have our open rate is over 50%.
Nice.
And so that to me is, so we're constantly monitoring open rate, click through rate. We actually have a pretty low unsubscribe rate. So those kinds of things that I'm looking more for engagement versus direct revenue.
So engagement, specifically, you mentioned like open rate, click through
Mhm.
rate. Do you ever I mean, do those ever like lead to even like sales calls or
Yeah.
go, download my ebook or whatever?
Yeah, I'm actually really surprised how there was someone who I didn't know at all, who then he was just, "Oh, I've been reading your newsletter and I'd like you to bring us I'd like to bring you into our organization." And so what I found is actually, when I'm not salesy and I'm just trying to share, this is who we are, this is how we approach curiosity and learning, people, uh, that resonates a lot more with people. It's not off-putting. And so I mean, now we've had people who are just, I read your newsletter every week because I'm learning something from it.
Nice.
And so I'm actually okay with that, not that a quick sale. And I think that this is for people who have more of the businesses where it's based on their thought leadership. If you're
Mhm.
constantly trying to sell, then I think that, and I've talked to other people who do this, and it's you're gonna get a lot of unsubscribes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So I mean, this is honestly, that's I like that approach. It's the approach I try to take as well, but it's also a long game.
Mhm.
So you have to have patience.
Mhm.
So how long did it take you, do you think, from the start of your of curiosity base to kind of get that momentum behind your content?
2 years.
2 years.
2 years. Yeah, and I wouldn't even say it's a flood. I think more of it, there's the new, hey, this is like someone I totally don't know. This is a new lead. And then there's the reinforcement. "Oh, I knew about you before, but this content is reinforcing and helping me understand what you do more," and that's much more likely for me to refer you to people, because it's not even just they're the direct buyers, it's that they're actually referring us to people as well. So we see more messages coming in from our contact us box from
Hmm.
people we don't know, who are just, "Hey, I saw this on LinkedIn," or "I saw this, I got forwarded your newsletter."
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, I mean, it's great whenever people are doing your advertising for you for free.
Mhm.
Like, that's wonderful.
Mhm, mhm, yeah, and something that we're trying that's new, actually, so I'll talk about, like, lesson learned, something I wouldn't do
Yeah, yeah.
again, is, I think, trying to, so I just said if our newsletter, we are doing a general audience. I realized I'm not as successful with that and just doing that on LinkedIn Live, like on video, because we tried to do interesting content. We had it before a while, this series called Respect in Practice, and I'd interview a music conductor, a sleep doctor, a funeral home owner, just people really interesting careers.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, I mean, it had low viewership and it had low engagement. And so not going to do that again. But what we learned, we did these different LinkedIn lives for a couple of years. And now we're landing, actually, we have a podcast called Curiosity at Work. And that, we interview people managers, those who are managing at least 5 people or more. And we have a set number of questions. And it's just, how do you practice curiosity in your workplace? And actually, in starting it, because this is new for us, we just started this over the summer. We've been actually interviewing a lot of our previous clients. So it's actually a really great way to keep them engaged. And then it really gets at the essence of what we care about, that practice and curiosity, so that other people are just, ooh, how do you do it in public housing? How do you do it in city planning? You can see a lot of our clients are actually government. So those are some things that I've learned too, just how to be more mindful of the audience that I want.
Yeah, and I think it sounds to me, and correct me if I'm wrong, it sounds to me like you took a concept that was maybe wide, maybe a little too wide at first,
Mm-hmm.
and then you said, okay, let's narrow this down. Let's have that commonality among every interview. It's going to be based on curiosity and respect and how it works in this workplace and that workplace. And it sounds like that maybe touched a nerve more so than the other group of interviews did.
Yeah, and also being mindful of limited resources. I know that this is, for me, we just have the same interview questions with the same 4 interview questions. I know some people are, no, I want to have different interview questions each time. For us, in terms of a work process, because we're constantly thinking about, how do we make this easy for the workflow as well? Because if you have too much customization, that's where it takes a lot more time.
Yeah, that's what I do. I mean, that's honestly what I do for this podcast as well. I try to get it dialed in. I have similar questions each week. I have similar images each week. Like, it's all dialed in because I'm exactly like you. The value is me talking with you. That's the value is not in creating a different image for every single podcast. So let's focus on the value.
Mhm.
I want to ask you one more question about your content, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
And this kind of goes more to what you're doing on YouTube and what you're doing on your websites. How important is SEO to you? Is that something you focus on, or is that just something that you allow to happen, how it might happen?
We don't want to sound like a machine. That's something. It's just, I don't want to sound like a bot where I'm just writing for SEO. And so we use Yoast. And honestly, we just try to get to orange, because sometimes if you get to green, it's just because you've changed it so much that it's for the bots and not for the person.
Right.
And so that's where it's just, how do we try to make sure that we've got the basics? It's something that we're trying to get better at, but I would and be more aware of. But I wouldn't say that by any means that we're experts at it.
Got it. Yeah, and just for those listening, if you don't know, Yoast is a WordPress plugin, and maybe for other sites too, but at least for WordPress, and it just guides you in some basic SEO best practices. And like you said, if you can get to green, great. But if you get to green and it doesn't read right, then stick with the yellow or the orange.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So Julie, I'm going to assume that you have a good boundaries in your life, and you're not always working. So when you're not working, what do you like to do?
I love having dinner parties.
Oh, cool.
I love hosting people and getting just interesting conversations going and bringing people together who normally wouldn't get to meet each other, and just facilitating an evening of story sharing. It's entertaining for me. I will make a simple homemade meal. It's my way of getting to be generous without hosting people at a restaurant or paying for catering or something like that. And because I feel that it's about the content. That's what it's not just about what people are going to eat or the decoration. So that's my favorite thing to do.
But so I'm the cook in my family as well. So I do have a quite follow-up question about the food in particular. So you're a Vietnamese American. Do you like to share the Vietnamese
Absolutely.
cuisine? Oh,
Absolutely.
nice.
I do. And actually one of the things that I really like to make is a my own version of a Vietnamese spring roll. And so John, we're both in Seattle, so it uses salmon or steelhead trout instead, and a bunch of herbs and mango and crunchy onions, no noodles. I think the normal spring roll people are familiar with is noodles, some herbs, and shrimp. And so mine is a different version. And I like to make that. And sometimes I actually, to make it interactive, if people come over early, we'll roll together.
Oh, that's so cool.
Mhm.
Nice. So yeah, I've is that so is that you have to help me out here. That's is that like sushi, uncooked salmon?
No.
No, it's
It's
cooked.
cooked.
Okay,
It's
okay.
cooked. It's baked. Yeah.
I'm still very new in my I grew up in Kansas, and
Uh-huh.
so we didn't have a whole lot of seafood in the middle
Mhm.
of the United States, so I'm
Mhm.
still very much learning about
Mhm.
seafood.
Yes, yes. No, this is it. I just cook the salmon just the way that if for those who are familiar with a standard fresh Vietnamese spring roll, they use shrimp and they cook the shrimp.
Nice. Okay, well, thank you for humoring my ignorance on
Mhm.
that. I'm gonna
No,
have to go
no, thank you
learn a
for
little bit.
asking.
So,
By the way, if you go to my personal Instagram, there's a little video of a reel of me demoing that if people are interested. So,
all right, yeah, I'll have to go check that out, and then yeah, see. And funny story, like I brought up sushi because I used to be didn't like sushi or a whole lot of seafood like that, and then my daughter, who was probably 10 or 11 at the time, wanted to try sushi, and I'm thinking, I'm a 40-year-old man. I should probably try this because if she can do it, turns out I love it.
yes.
So, like, what you just described sounds wonderful to me. So,
Mhm.
and it was all thanks to my, 12-year-old daughter.
Yes.
So you've lived, you've just had a whole lot of experiences in your life, as we all have. Um, as I mentioned, you've got your PhD, you've been in academia, you've run a business with your family, you've created this curiosity base from scratch. That's a lot, and I know you're not done yet. But what is one piece of wisdom or a lesson you've learned in your life journey? Could be life related, could be work related, something that can just help our audience become better people.
Mhm. I'll share I'll share actually a framework that was the kind of the first framework that we developed and started um, working with our clients, and that is to think about what is success, not just what success looks like, because oftentimes people reflect on, oh, what does success look like? And it's very tangible. Also to ask yourself, what does success feel like? And both are important. I'm not saying that feels like is more important than looks like. I'm saying that they should be in alignment with one another. And and then to also think about the things that we need to do and also the things that we need to stop doing, because there are things when we think about what success looks like, it's just I can do all these things. And then for what does success feel like? What is stopping me from feeling successful? So I'm just going to share with you a story of when I just before I started my business and I told my father I was really scared that I'm leaving this nonprofit executive job in the middle of the pandemic to start my own company. And he said, "I'm so happy for you because now you're going to have freedom." And you never have to worry about losing your job again because I'd gone through a few layoffs. And that's when I realized, oh, success to me feels like freedom. And the thing I need to stop doing is asking permission.
Oh my gosh, preach it.
Right? Because I realized I was spending a lot of time asking permission. Can I do this? Can I share this? And that's the reason why I felt called to start my business, because it was just, I loved my job and yet I had to ask permission.
I am right there with you. That's I transitioned from the corporate world to doing my own thing, and that's one of the biggest things for me. Yes, I make less money, at least right now,
Mhm.
but boy, the freedom and like you said, not having to ask permission, that's priceless. Thank you
Mhm.
so much for that.
Yeah, so think about what does it look like? Not just, oh, this much dollars and whatever, whatever. It's just like, what does it feel like?
Yeah. All right, cool. Julie, where can people learn more about you?
So, John, you pointed out I'm very active on LinkedIn. So
Hmm.
you can find me on LinkedIn. We also have a company page as well. Julie at curiositybase.com. That's my email address. And my website is curiositybase.com. And I also have a website for my book called
Hmm.
formsofrespect.com. And we also have a very active YouTube channel too.
Great. And I will make sure all those are in the show notes so that you can reference those easily. Julie, again, thank you so much for the wonderful conversation today. It's been a pleasure.
John, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation too.
Yeah. And if you, our listeners, enjoyed our discussion today, be sure to subscribe because you don't want to miss any of our discussions. I bring on the most amazing people. We have discussions just like this every week. And so hit that subscribe button, do what you got to do to tune in. And with that, have a great day. And we'll see you next time on the Content Creators Unite podcast.